Hey everybody, welcome back. It's Film Tangents. I am here. This is episode 105, and it is late March. We're welcoming spring soon, right? It's like in the next couple of days, it's gonna be officially spring.
Yeah,
And I'm here with the
got warm and
usual.
now it's cold
Freezing.
Yeah,
again.
it got
Yeah.
cold. Yeah, it got cold over the past 3 days, but I think tomorrow we're going up to the 70s in the East Coast where we're at.
Yeah.
Jake specifically is in the city of Diapers, Florida.
Yeah.
So go,
Sounds about right.
yeah, go find him over there. I'm here with the usual suspects. Jake.
Yep.
Uh,
What's up, guys? Yeah, we got more episodes now than Roger and what's her face had in 100 had Dalmatians, dude. In
yeah, right.
101 Dalmatians.
Yeah,
We got more episodes than the
the
Dalmatian
Dalmatian.
plantation, you know what I'm saying? Gang gang.
Sounds like big time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, we're in the big
obviously,
leagues now.
obviously, for anybody that's new, the other voice here is also Jake. Jake, go ahead.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm Jake number 2, also known as Jack.
Yeah.
Glad to be back. Film Tangents.
Hey everybody. If anybody wants to subscribe. But you can also follow us on Apple Podcast. Do whatever you want. Unsubscribe, subscribe, leave a comment, whatever. Who cares? The movie
You
of
know
the
what is
week. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you know what I saw Langston's comment the other day, and I was like, and it's so funny because a few weeks ago I thought of Langston, and I was like, surely he doesn't still listen to this podcast, and I'm
Wait,
like, oh, he still
no.
listens to it.
Yeah, dude,
I'm like,
Langston's
he
our
had
number
to
one
have
guy,
fallen
man.
off by now.
Yeah, right.
Like
I-
we have have gone stale by this time.
No, at
But
least
now, man, I guess we still got it,
no.
dude.
As long as our OGs are still around, our quiet
Yeah.
OGs, because they comment very they don't comment very often. But as long as we got our
Yeah.
guys around, as long as we have old Lang around, then I feel confident. Like, oh, we're still here. We're not past our prime. I get the feeling that I feel like if you have like a podcast, right? I feel like you hit your prime in a show, like after episode 100. And I think like maybe after episode like maybe 250, 300, then you kind of burn out. Then that's when you get into like that stage of existence where it's like, oh, we're just kind of doing this because we have to. If the show is
Yeah.
successful, by that point we should abandon the show.
We'll do a spin-off or
It'll do a
something.
spin-off. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen that a lot
Yeah,
recently, dude. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I'm like I'm waiting for that, like the day Film Tangents died
Die.
episode. I don't know if we've gotten there yet, but I feel it coming, man.
It's
No.
interesting, man, when you have like niche, like very small communities. Because even within very small communities, for instance, like in the past, I've followed channels that have like, let's say, like 5,000 subscribers, and that channel might do something that might infuriate one of their followers or one of the people who are subscribed to them, and then they might make like a video being like, why this person's wrong, like why, Looney Tune, 23 is wrong about Hunter x Hunter, and they will start having like small beef between small little channels. We haven't gotten there, but
Nah.
I strive for that.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like I can keep, at least on my end, this show pretty good as long as my life keeps not sucking and I keep growing in life.
Mm,
I feel like that's that's probably a big part of keeping a show good,
yeah.
because if I get to this mic and I'm just like, dude, I hate life, and I'm not going anywhere, then like how am I gonna talk about anything interesting,
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like that's what those like nerd podcasts are. Those ones where they're just like, oh well, the Star Wars
Yeah.
13 is coming out, and I for one am really upset that they're not including Chewbacca in this movie, and they're also including a new droid. And it's just like this is what you're doing. This is what
Yeah.
this is what you're looking forward to.
Well, it's interesting because it almost feels like there's like a nihilistic like there's something about it that's like nihilistic.
Yeah.
Like if that's all there is, you're like, You're like, I hate
Yeah.
life. I'm just coping.
Yeah.
I'm coping with life through Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Will we see the return of Darth Maul in this next one? Holy
Ooh,
shit.
that's so like that always like pains me. Like I've always been like very much against like this creative things like Star Wars like repeating themselves or like bringing back old
Yeah.
characters. Like that's always been like my biggest like that's why I don't watch. For instance, that's why I don't watch Dragon Ball Super. Like that's why
Mm.
because I as a kid I watched Dragon Ball. Like I watched all of it. I watched Dragon Ball Z. Even recently, like as of the past like 5-6 years, I read the manga again. I watched like certain like arcs and stuff of the show. So when they brought Dragon Ball Super in, and they brought like Frieza, and they brought like a bunch of old like they made a movie where they brought back like Cell, and they just brought back all these guys. I'm like, dude, I don't care. Like,
Yeah.
for one, I hate spin-offs. Like, I am very much like I am very much like a just canon guy. Like, I just wanna get the canon story, and that's it. And usually when they make like a spin-off of a show, I don't care. But more so, I just hate like reusing old characters. It's like, what's the purpose of that? Like, that's one of my
I know.
biggest like pet peeves. And then in media, even when something's not reused, one of my most hated tropes is the main character against themselves. And themselves in this instance is literally a copy of themselves. Like, I remember when I watched Logan, and then it was like, oh, it's just a younger version of him. Like that. Oh, whenever that trope like comes up, it always infuriates me. It like infuriates me whenever they
That
do
is
that.
the weirdest part of that movie.
Yeah.
I remember when I first watched that movie and I realized it was a Wolverine clone. I was like, what? They just pull it off. They just barely pull it off in that movie. But yeah, I agree with you. Well, yeah, and the returning characters, like just bringing characters back ad infinitum. I think it's comical at this point with Darth Maul in Star Wars. I mentioned him, uh, like I mean, that wasn't even just a joke that I was making. I mean, it's so interesting because you think back to the Phantom Menace. That guy was supposed to die in the Phantom Menace. And all he ever was eye candy. He was just a cool design in that movie. He had
Exactly.
zero characterization in that movie. Says a couple lines and then,
It was just
kills Liam
cool.
Neeson.
Yeah, it
and
was
then-
just a cool looking guy. That's it.
oh, and he had the double saber.
Double
No.
Saber was sick.
Yeah, but he wasn't a good villain in that movie.
No.
He was, and then they brought him back in the Clone Wars series that I watched as a kid, and that was really cool. The way they brought him back. They brought him back in Clone Wars, and he's bent on revenge on Obi-Wan, for chopping him in half, making mincing him, fucking sending him down a mine shaft or whatever that was.
Yeah.
And that was cool. It was like, all right, I can get behind this. But then they bring him back, and stuff I don't even watch. I saw the Solo movie. He has a weird cameo in that. And then I never watched that Rebels series, but then they bring him back in that. And now there's this new series I saw a trailer for. It's a Maul series.
Really, it's a whole
What?
series.
And I'm like,
And he's like,
It's
what?
called-
He's the
I
main
think it's called-
character.
yeah, it's called Darth Maul Shadow Legends, I believe, or
weird.
Shadow Knight. I don't remember what it was called, but yeah, and I remember seeing that and just thinking to myself, this is insane how much they just keep milking this character. Because at this point, I think he dies in Rebels. So
Did he die in the fucking
it-
first movie as it was?
right. So it's like, I'm assuming this is some kind of interquel now where it's between Clone Wars and Rebels. But
Mhm.
the problem with that, what you're saying, Edward, here about bringing back characters, I think the biggest problem with it is just that there's no suspense. I know this character's entire
Right.
saga
Right.
now.
But even
just-
when even when there is like an element of suspense, like even if a character returns that had not passed, right? Like even when it's like, oh, this guy's just back, even when they do that, if I feel like the character initially like if I feel like they had like finished the character, if there was like that was, the character had an arc and you guys accomplished it at the first time, it just makes it boring. Like it just makes it like it's just such a drag. It's just so every time it's such a drag, and I hate it, especially when it's like villains. Like again to bring back Dragon Ball. Like in Dragon Ball Super, they brought back like Freezer. They brought back Frieza, who's like one of the most iconic like villains. They brought him back from the dead, and it's like, dude, what for? The guy had a whole like arc dedicated to him,
which was perfect,
and then he died at the end. Like, why do we have to like? And the funny thing is that then Toriyama brought him back in the comics just for like Trunks to like literally like one hit KO like OP him just to show how strong like Trunks was, and it's like we already brought the guy back and he died like immediately, and that was the point of it. It was like to basically be like the previous threat from the previous arc. Here he is again, and now he's gonna die again. He's gone now. That's how weak he is, in comparison.
There's a lot of Dragon Ball though. It's just like continually just powering up, and powering up.
It's the most
bitch slapped and then powering up.
It's the most power creep like thing ever. It's fascinating how that stuff goes with like shonen and storytelling, right? Because you have it where you think about like Astro Boy or like Fist of the North Star and like this like stuff that came before, and then Dragon Ball acted almost like this as this like transitionary manga where it introduced all the tropes that we're still doing today, but it introduced all of them like in a very like rudimentary way, where it's like every arc we have to get more powerful, Super Saiyan 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Super Saiyan God, and all this horseshit. And then you see eventually you get to stuff like not even One Piece, because One Piece is also terrible with that, but eventually you get somewhere like you get to like Hunter x Hunter, and Hunter x Hunter then introduces like a lot of mechanics that make it so that power creep is not such a humongous thing. You don't have to fucking keep like leveling up until you become Super Saiyan, Uranus or something. Like Jesus Christ. Yeah. But I love the idea of power creep though, or the idea of like power systems in like battle shows. It always fascinates me.
100%. That's why I'm like, watch JJK, bro.
Oh, dude,
It's
I gotta
got a great
it.
power system.
Yeah, I gotta get on it. Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
And it's interesting because lately everything that I see is like some Hunter x Hunter thing. Because like JJK is like a Hunter x Hunter thing, and even when you talk to me about like solo leveling was a Hunter x Hunter thing. And it's like, everything is Hunter x Hunter these days. But that's cool because Hunter x Hunter is like peak. And if something's
shit.
Yeah, if something's copying it, then I guess it has to be at least decent.
Yeah. Yeah, and like my power system, like shout out, this one of my favorite ones is the Brotherhood Full Metal Alchemist.
Oh yeah, dude. Full Metal Alchemist is
just
shit.
Like the shit, and it's just like
that's a great power
exchange.
System.
Like you're gonna just get wrecked if you try to do too much.
Yeah. Yeah, but I guess leaving power systems aside, let's get into the movie of the week. Somehow, I think the anime stuff makes sense because I feel like Trump is like an anime character.
That's what I was telling Jake. I was like, feels like when Trump got old at some point, like older, he just turned into like a caricature of himself.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but yeah, this is the Trump movie. Everybody, the movie of the week is The Apprentice. 2024, directed by, I think his name is, let me see, Ali Abbasi, and written, who wrote this movie? I had this written down. Written by Gabriel Sherman. First writing from this guy. This is the first movie he's written, but for Ali Abbasi, this is like movie number 5. Nominated for a couple of Oscars. I think the guy that played Roy got nominated for Best Supporting Actor. He lost to the guy from that movie. I think we talked about that movie. I don't know if it was a movie of the week one time, but that Jesse Eisenberg movie where he's like on a trip with his cousin in
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he lost
What
to
was
that guy.
called?
He lost to Macaulay Culkin's brother.
Yeah.
Yeah. I forget the name of that movie.
It was the one that you were like, oh, it's basically if they did a
Drake and Josh
follow-up movie.
Yeah.
That I would love to freaking see that.
Yeah,
man.
it would be interesting, dude, especially after the arcs that like Josh and Drake have had, like real life arcs those guys have had.
Yeah. Sometimes I do actually, I found it in the past couple of years helpful for coming up with original story ideas to sometimes just think of an interesting follow-up or crossover and then just take away the copyrighted material
for sure. Yeah.
and make it yours.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's actually, I don't know, weird kind of niche tip.
No, I
but
think you're 100%.
I've come up with some interesting ideas
Yeah.
that way.
You're 100% right. I think people should take that. I remember when I had that like Kylo Ren idea for like a movie
Yeah.
where I was like, oh, this is like a solo Kylo Ren movie. I remember I pitched it to one of my professors, and they were like, we're not going to support you on that. Like, I remember somebody told me like, don't do that because that's like an IP. And then I just said to them like, what if I just remove the names of everybody? Like, isn't at that point? Yeah. And then they were like, okay, that's fine. Because it's like, yeah, you can just do that. Yeah, you can create an idea based on something and then just make it your own. Just change everybody's name. Change everybody's name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did that last year. I have like a whole pipeline of, novels that I want to write. But one I think it was like a year or two ago, I had this thought. I think we even talked about it when we were doing that we were doing one of those segments on the show where we were talking about versus, character face-offs.
Oh yeah.
Like we had Scrat versus Alvin and the Chipmunks, or Superman versus Thor, whatever.
Yeah.
Scrat versus Alvin and the Chipmunks is still my favorite.
That was peak. That was the peak of that segment.
We all know Scrat would just Taz tornado those three
dude,
fucking.
now that you mentioned that, I probably should make that into a clip.
Oh Jesus, yeah.
Yeah.
Can you just imagine Scrat beating the living shit out of those three softies in their little chipmunk sweaters?
Oh, dude, 100%.
Holy. I mean, he beat up a fully grown sloth.
Dude, we also had that Remy versus what was it? Like Remy from
Stuart. Yeah, Remy versus Stuart Little. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, for context, Jack, one on seasons past, we need to bring it back, but we've done it on a few episodes where we just do character face-offs. And you just do like a Freddy versus Jason type thing where you like, all right, this character from this thing versus that character from that thing. I think we did like Stewie versus Cartman. You just talk about who would win,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But we need to bring that back. But one that we talked about was Lalo from Better Call Saul versus Vic Mackey from The Shield.
Yeah, that's right.
And I kept thinking about that, and I was like, dude, I want to see that so goddamn bad. And then I just thought, why not do the crossover?
Yeah.
Just do the crossover and remove the names. Yeah. Change a couple details, and you got it.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Yeah.
You don't have to name them the same thing.
I think you even said you would do it then. I think in that episode you might have said like, I'll do it. I'll write it.
Well, if that's the case, then that was the genesis of it.
Yeah, very nice.
Because that's yeah. And I want the novel to have the whole thing to have the feel of that episode of Better Call Saul called Point and Shoot, where Lalo does his like final plan against Gus or whatever. Like, shit, dude, it would be awesome. Anyway, enough about our fucking ideas. You guys have been listening to that shit enough. You're like, talk about things that have been made, you motherfuckers. All right,
real things.
Yeah,
The Apprentice. What did you guys think? Again, Ali Abbasi, 2024 movie. I guess it's like a comedy, like a dark comedy, I guess I would classify this movie. I've been picking a lot of these movies that are just kind of like these comedic like films. It's like a biographical like comedy drama movie, I guess I would say.
I suppose.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd go that far with with saying it's dark comedy. There definitely were some funny ass moments.
There's some funny moments, yeah.
I mean, the moment, to me, the moment of comedic gold in this movie was when Donald Trump is drunk and he gets out of the car, and as the car's driving away, he pukes.
Yeah.
That was so goddamn funny, dude. Just the way they filmed that.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that was incredible.
There were a lot of like bits like that. I feel like there were a lot of like weirdly like almost like Curb like bits in this.
Yeah. That's true.
But I think it probably is more appropriate just to be like a comedy drama movie, I suppose.
Yeah.
In any case, what were your guys' thoughts, opening thoughts about this movie? Positives, negatives, what came to mind?
Well, first of all, I just want to say that I have never in my life seen a more horrible, rude, evil film such as this that paints me in they really said horrible things about me. None of it's true, completely disavow it. And I just think this was a horrible, horrible film. The filmmaker ought to be ashamed of himself and he ought to go to jail. That's what excuse me. That's what I think. Jack?
Go ahead.
It's hard to follow, man. It's really hard to follow. I mean, I thought it was definitely interesting the way that you see Trump kind of being somebody who's like knocking on doors, like people are just kind of blowing him off. It's just like, fuck you, here's half the rent, like, you cocksucker, throwing boiling water at him, like, they were just he really had no power. Like, I mean, he had enough power to like get their rent money through like his dad's power, really, but like like he was not doing a glamorous job. And then seeing him in that little club where he's like, oh, I'm the first member he's with that girl. He's like, I'm the youngest member in this club. And then she's like, let me go powder my nose, you fucking jackass, and doesn't come back. And you could just tell, like, he's kind of got that glint of like just looking for like success and wanting to make it big.
Yeah.
A little like really, Patrick Bateman, a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
And just like seeing him kind of get involved with that lawyer, who really is interesting in this movie. I'm not sure how, accurate, but it seems like plausible that like a lot of the ways, Trump is now, like a lot of the ideology and things that he, goes by, like comes from this aggressive lawyer character, Roy, who, is just like preaching this, you can't, you never lose if you don't admit defeat, like just claim victory no matter what.
Yeah.
And just like, it's interesting seeing him kind of take that and kind of be like, oh, like, I'm not sure, this seems like a bad thing. Like, oh, I saw you just extort him. Like, isn't that illegal? And like him going from there and then kind of finally going off the deep end to full Trump form at the end, where you're just like, holy shit, this is not the same person at all. And like Roy even says that. He's like, I don't even know who you are. I thought it was a really cool character development for Trump.
Yeah, and they seeded it. They seeded it in the beginning too, with him, being in the club and having it was very much like The Social Network in that way, with Jesse Eisenberg as Mark Zuckerberg, where in that opening scene he's in the restaurant with Rooney Mara, Rooney Mara's character, and he's talking about, well, I need to do it to get the attention of the clubs because they're exclusive and they make you cool and it leads to a better life. I think this movie actually probably owes a lot to The Social Network. It was kind of an amalgamation of a lot of things like that. Social Network, there was a bit of Wolf of Wall Street in there, of course. But yeah, I think the movie's greatest strength is what Jack alluded to, which is the character development of Donald Trump. And I really just think the way they handled Donald Trump was a real strength of this movie, because they could have gone one of two ways. If the movie was made by Trump or authorized by Trump, they would have made him some kind of just American, all-American success story.
It would have been like that guy. Steve Jobs movie with like Ashton Kutcher. That's what it would have been.
Yeah. Absolutely, it would have been that. Yes. But probably even more self-congratulatory, because he's still a dick in that movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. Oh, it would have been horrific. Just horrible. Just little Donnie Trump. Yeah. Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
Yeah.
He rags. Yeah. Just I want to build things.
Yeah.
That would have been horrible. No one wants to watch that. But almost as bad would have been if they just went the whole Trump is supervillain route.
Right.
And made him too evil.
Yeah.
I really think they struck a great balance in this movie. They show you at the beginning the positive. He's just very boyish at the beginning. I will say I was a little doubtful at the beginning. I sort of doubt he was actually that boyish and stuttering and like, well, yes, sir. I'm like, was he really like that at 27? He was our age in this movie at the beginning, 27. But I did find that very interesting, that he, at 27 years old, he's the son of a billionaire and he's just doing this unglamorous, knocking on doors, having boiling water thrown at him, asking for rent. I thought that was really interesting. But yeah, I thought they did a great job of humanizing him, where it just really, most of the movie though did feel like this is probably how he was, like when his brother died and the way he reacts to that, I saw that and thought, yeah, that's probably how a younger, a middle-aged Donald Trump would react, probably. So yeah, I thought their handling of that was great. I thought the main actor, I don't remember his name, the guy who
Sebastian
plays
Stan. Yeah, he's the guy that plays the Winter Soldier. Yeah.
Yeah. He did a fantastic job as Donald Trump. I really loved his performance because he didn't go too far in either direction. It wasn't like, oh, this guy sucks as Donald Trump, but it also wasn't this guy, like, it wasn't an Alec Baldwin type thing.
It wasn't an SNL like caricature
scrunching
thing.
Your face. Just
It was funny when he started going like this, when he started like puckering his lips. I was like, oh, he's doing it. He's puckering his lips.
And he sort of does it more as the movie goes on.
Yeah. There's like a really funny. I was gonna say there's a really funny like Letterboxd review where it's just a guy saying like, watching Sebastian Stan slowly more and more into Trump was genuinely insane cinema experience. It's like, oh, really?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, that was great. Yeah. That was great. And the lips puckering thing is such a great, I mean, it's what he does in real life, but it's the perfect mannerism to accentuate in the movie and focus on and really nail, because that's such like a pompous sort of mannerism, when you pucker your lips or just yes. There's a peon in my palace, like it's perfect. Yeah, so those are huge positives. The guy who played Roy, I mean, what a fucking ghoul that guy was.
Yes, he really was, dude. He really was.
It was a ghoul.
Yeah, go ahead, Jack.
Dude, I commented on the thing that he was doing where he was kind of like, when he was talking, he was like moving his head like a little bit.
Yeah.
And like, I got lost in that like after a while, and I was just like, I can't like just not focus on this guy's
Dude,
head.
it was just such a strange performance. Like anything, like it would just be him saying something along the lines of like, you got a big ass, Donald. You gotta work on that, and just like moving his neck and everything he says, he like said it like in a very weird, like monotone, like deadpan kind of way. And the only thing that would change about him would just be like his inflection or how loud he would say something, but it was always the same tone. Like it was such a weird performance, dude. Oh, gosh.
It was like a robot.
Yeah.
And I loved how they had just reverse character arcs.
Yes, they did.
And I would love to go back into the movie, because it's like, Donald Trump, his arc is going more toward from boyish to asshole.
Yes.
And then Roy's arc is going from asshole to more boyish or just frail.
Yeah, like a frail,
sheepish.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's say sheepish.
Yeah.
And I would love to go back into the movie and identify the point where they intersect, where they're both, because if they both have opposite character arcs, it would stand to reason that they would have a moment where those character arcs intersect and they're both equal.
I know exactly what moment that is.
I think I know too. Go ahead, Jack.
What do you? Yeah, go for it.
So there was, I forget who he was. I think he was having a meeting with the mayor, and Roy was sitting on the couch next to him, and like he was like Donald Trump wasn't really letting him speak, and he was like talking over him, and Roy was sitting there with this look on his face, like. And I think Roy went into that meeting being like, "Don't say a thing. Like I got it. Like don't worry about anything." And then Donald proceeds to just steamroll him and just like run with what he wants and
Yeah,
storm out.
yeah.
I felt like that was the moment.
That was certainly like I think that was certainly the moment, because that moment is the
Great
first
point.
time in the film where Donald is like establishing himself as like the dominant force between the two of them, right? Because for a
Yeah.
lot of the film before that moment, it was like Donald like running to Roy and just being like, Roy, fix it, and following Roy around. But that's the first time in the movie where we see Roy follow him, where we see
Yeah.
him just like shut Roy down. So that's like a moment, and I think then it like doubles down when Roy asks Donald for a favor. Because like a few scenes later, Roy asks him to hire I forget, Russell. He asks him to hire Russell at his hotel, and he goes like, "Oh yeah, I got it." That was like the first time in the movie where there was like a very clear shift, where for the first time, instead of Donald asking Roy for favors, Roy was asking him for a favor, and I thought that was pretty interesting too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great point. I think you're right. I think that is the scene. Yeah, great catch, dude. And you know what's funny? Now that you say that with Roy asking Donald for a favor, I almost wonder if Roy's problem was that he ultimately didn't fully buy into his own worldview of being a killer.
For
Because
sure.
at that point, I'm like, why are you asking this guy for something? You know he's an asshole. Like don't appeal to this guy's good nature. He has none.
He's an asshole.
But I feel like Donald, and this is where it's like nature versus nurture, where there is just, because I really truly believe that Donald Trump is just a narcissistic asshole
For sure.
through and through.
For sure.
And how much of that was nature and how much of that was nurture is up for grabs. But I do think nature and just genetics probably play a good part in that, where it was like, no, this guy fully buys. This guy is the type of guy who fully buys into a philosophy like this.
100%. Yeah.
Cutthroat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jack.
I was just gonna say, like, it was interesting, like him buying into his philosophy when, he's like, leak the fact that you're gonna do, this hotel into the paper, and then get your dad to buy into it. Like, you don't need to, ask him. Like, you need to just go put it out and do it on your own, and then get him on board. Like, what are you going to take orders from him forever?
Yeah.
Like, kind of instigating him to like be dominant over his father, and then him fully buying into that, eventually leading to him, overtaking Roy and being like the dominant of that relationship was kind of interesting.
Yeah, and it was interesting too how he handled that, because his dad called him out. His dad was like, "Hey, like it's out here in the paper saying that like you're doing this, like you're representing me and saying that you're building this thing, but I didn't say it. It's like I didn't say it." And so his dad said something along the lines of like, "It makes me look like I'm not in control of my company." And so Donald like cornered him, because then he was like, well, Dad, it will look like you're in control of things if you back me up. So he forced his dad into this position, whereas like if you say something otherwise in the news, it's going to look like you and Donald are not in the same page, and Donald might be in control of your company and makes you look weak. So the only way for you to save face is that you have to back him up and make it seem like it was like you were on board with the whole thing to begin with, which is a fascinating thing. It's interesting because I started reading, based on your recommendation, I started reading that 48 Rules of Power book. So I was like thinking, like, where does that fit?
Oh yeah.
So
you can't unsee it. You'll then see it in anything that's political or like like when we were I mentioned Better Call Saul earlier, like I do on every podcast, and it's like I couldn't everything that whether Gus would do something or the cartel, it was
How
like, dude, I just Game of Thrones, like you just can't unsee it.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting book. It's a pretty interesting book. I think I'm in like rule number 7 or something, but it's pretty fascinating. Thanks for the recommendation, by the way.
Oh yeah.
But it's interesting talking about it in the context of this movie, because the whole time watching this movie, I was like, oh yeah, he has that book, The Art of the Deal, And then I guess by the end, it's like implied that they're like that has like a writer guy like shopping it up for him or whatever. Roy's rules were 1, attack. 2, admit nothing, deny everything.
Yep.
3, claim victory and never admit defeat.
2020 election right
Yeah,
there.
dude, it literally, it's fascinating. But Roy was a real guy, and it's interesting because before this movie came out, and before the 2020 elections, there was a 2019 article. I think I forget like published by who. You can look up like Roy Cohn, and like Roy, you can Google Roy Cohn Trump, and the article will come up, and it's basically saying like Trump's whole philosophy and identity was stolen from this guy. I wouldn't be surprised if this movie is somehow based on that article or inspired by it. Very fascinating thing. But I thought about it watching the movie. I thought about like how you and I have talked about this in the sense of like Breaking Bad and so on and so forth. Well, I was like, oh, this is they introduced this as a corruption arc for Trump, where he starts as this kind of like naive, like Boy Scout kind of guy, and then by the end of it, he ends up being just this like Roy 2.0, more vile, more evil, and he obviously even like SA, not even SA, he like just
Full on.
full on his own wife,
Terrible.
yeah, terrible. And it's interesting because, and to back up to kind of reference what you said earlier about like the nature versus nurture element of it, I think there's an element of the movie that you could argue is kind of implying that he was always this, and by that I mean like what Jack said earlier, where like the movie starts with him going like, I'm the youngest guy here, there's already that element of like narcissism that he has going on. And it's interesting with him meeting Roy and becoming acquainted with him. It was just like this was the guy that was needed to just like completely just like put that on the forefront of his character. And I also think about the scene because there's a scene where he opens like that other Trump Tower where he's talking to his dad, and his dad is like, oh, that Trump Tower, and he corrects his dad, and he was like, there was a Trump Village, Dad, like,
Yeah.
Trump Tower is my
I love
thing,
that scene.
Me too.
But in that scene, there is a moment too where his dad says to him, like, you really did it, you're really a killer. And there is this look on his face, like the camera, there's like a beat, and he has this look on his face. He just goes like, there's like this element to that scene where it was almost like the missing piece in his head. Like he was missing something. He was missing like his father's validation. Even if he had, in a superficial way, even if he had like established himself as some kind of dominant figure over his own father, and every interaction that he had with his own father, he was kind of trying to one up him, being like, no, that was me, but it was interesting that he was missing that from his dad, and that his dad was like, you're a killer, you really are, you really made it, and that somehow like completed the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also felt like it was kind of almost like a at what cost
Yeah, exactly.
point as well, with him being like, okay, like, oh, I was really tough on you, but look how you turned out. But it's like, well, look how your other son turned out. I mean, at what cost was it really worth it to have him turn out to just be a quote unquote killer? Because I felt like his brother dying was just like really really revealed like a lot of things about the Trump family. Um,
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
it just like it's kind of interesting when he was talking to Ivanka, and he's like, "Oh, you're gonna marry me?" Like I'm, after the prenup scene, and he's like, "I'm on top of the world. Like I have this great family." Like trying to convince her,
Yeah.
like, "Oh, you're gonna freaking lose out if you don't end up with me." And it's like the Trump family dynamic is just weird.
Yeah.
Is just very weird with the dad, just and especially like Donald taking advantage of him when he's like old and doesn't really know what's going on, trying to get him to sign the contract. Like,
That was the biggest scumbag.
dude, that was such a scumbag move.
That was horrific.
Yeah, but like that, like, him with the brother, when the brother shows up, he's like, I'm fucked up. Like, I'm not doing well. Like things are getting scary. And he's like, here's $200, go get a hotel. Like, you'll be fine. I'll come check in on you. Like, but you're not staying here kind of thing. Like, yeah, it was a interesting dynamic for sure.
Yeah. Well, and what you were saying, Edward, is key because I have read that anyone close to Trump will tell you that, or who grew up around him will tell you that really most of what Trump did throughout his life was sort of a cry for attention to his father. It was sort of an appeal to his father for the love and attention that he didn't get as a kid.
It's
Yeah, so
interesting.
his dad, the dad, like it seems like Fred Trump really just created an environment where those kids just were starved for his attention, but then
Yeah.
also craved it. And it was a severe, if you disappointed him, it was very severe punishment on the emotional side of things, at least.
Yeah.
Um,
It was
Yeah.
interesting because I almost thought that his dad was going to be like that somehow Frederick was going to be like his dad's favorite son or something, but it didn't turn out to be that way.
no,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say my main gripes with this movie are, I think, so the whole one interesting thing about that is that I didn't even know that there was Ivana accused Donald Trump of raping her.
Yeah, I think I had
Uh,
some kind of inkling in regards to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can't say I'm surprised, and it's one of 20 something allegations against the guy, so go figure. I wasn't exactly too surprised. I will say it did catch me off guard in the movie. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Did he really do this, or are they? But then I looked it up, and it was an accusation she made, which makes sense. But I think that scene came a little too early in the film.
I agree.
Because it's around the midpoint, a little later. And the problem with that is we have nowhere else to go from there.
It flattened
He
the
can't
movie
get
out
any
completely.
worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because if he's done those, if he's done those things, that's the worst thing he's likely done.
Yes.
Right. So then after that, I was like, well, the arc's done.
It's
he's
done.
corrupted. What more story do we
Yeah.
have to tell? I really feel like that scene should have been the climax of the movie.
Dude, I
sort of
agree
like
100%.
Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
That's the climax of Wolf of Wall Street,
Mhm.
really, is I think if you had to identify what the climax of Wolf of Wall Street is, I think it would be the scene where him and Margot Robbie have
she's pregnant.
he has I think he essentially her in that scene. It's a little weird, but I would say you could say he's her in that scene. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
It's a weird dynamic going on. That's the only reason I say that. And then he proceeds to certainly put his hands on her, elbows her in the face.
Yeah.
He does some more coke. Then he takes the daughter and drives away.
Yeah.
That's the climax, I think, of that movie. And I think the domestic violence and sexual battery in this movie should have been the climax too, because there's nowhere to go.
There's nowhere to go.
That.
No, I agree with
There's
you.
nowhere to go.
It's weird because for me, this movie flattened out there for sure. Because when that happened, I think I wrote that note. It's like, what happens now? What else can the guy do? We know he's not gonna become like. We know that we know that he just becomes like a successful guy. I know that he's not going to like now go to some other country and become like the head of like a mafia or something. Like this is it. That this is as bad as it's gonna get, from my understanding. At least for this time period of his life. The pre-90s time period of his life. It's like I get this is how bad it's gonna get. So when that happened, I was like, this is done. I feel like the movie just became really uninteresting, like after Roy ceased to be present all the time. Like I felt like his dynamic with Roy was really fascinating. Yeah. And there was this element to his relationship with Roy. I don't know if I'm alone in this. You guys can pitch in. But there was an element to his relationship with Roy that also felt like it was like implying like, it was implying that Roy had like an affection for him that went beyond any kind of friendship that he had.
Oh yeah,
and
he had a little crush on him.
Yes, and so because of that, and because of like him witnessing, like Roy's private life when he went to like that party that one time. I feel like there was also this implication in the movie of like, what is he willing to do to get access to somebody as powerful and connected as Roy? So I feel like the movie was like playing with that. Like, oh, is he? Because at some point in the movie, he said to Roy, "I will do anything." You know, like there was a point, like I think when he needed to get the tax rebate to make all those buildings in downtown New York, he said to Roy, like, I will do anything for you to make this happen, And
Yeah, I gotta say, in those first like 40 something minutes,
yeah,
I was waiting for them to just smash cut to Donald Trump sucking Roy off.
that's what I'm saying, dude. That's what I'm saying. Like, and I feel like the movie was kind of playing with that. Again, like he said to that guy, like, I'll do anything. Like at that point, if at that point, it's like, dude, you sold your soul to this guy, and this guy is essentially the devil, It's like, what's gonna happen? But nothing happened. Nothing
Yeah.
happened. Like there was this ongoing build-up and implication, like, oh, you're morally compromising yourself and you're kind of indebted to this guy. And he even said to Roy at one point, like, hey, I can't afford this suit. And so Roy just handed him back the check that he paid him $10,000 for to settle the whole like lawsuit that his father's company was facing at the beginning of the film.
Yeah.
And at that point when Roy gave him back the money, I was like, well, what's he gonna get for that? There was an element, there was like a thought in my head, like, how is he owes this guy so much. Like
Oh,
not
for
only
sure. It was like a one-way relationship in
exactly.
terms of like he got everything from Roy and Roy didn't really get any benefit out of like he wasn't even getting paid. Like
Exactly,
he
dude.
didn't
And that
really
was
get
the
anything
weirdest
out of
thing
it.
to me, where like by the end of the movie, I was like, what happened here? Like, seemingly Roy was this guy's like fairy godmother, and he gained nothing from it. He gained nothing. Like the movie's implication is that the only thing that happened is that at some point when Trump got rich, he said to Roy, like, send me the bill. And I guess he paid him, you know? And then that
Yeah.
he like gave his like Roy's like lover, he gave him like a job at his hotel, and it's like, is
And
that
eventually
it?
kicked him out
Yeah, he
anyways.
kicked him out anyway. It's like, is that it? Is that that's it? There's no, and it's like, fine, I guess if we're sticking to the truth of the fact, and we don't know for a fact that Trump did anything with Roy, I guess we can't then insinuate it in this movie, and then I guess that opens this guys up for some kind of lawsuit. But nothing came from that, and I was just like, kind of like, okay, so that was like a big weird thing with me. And again, I felt like the movie fell flat after Roy disappeared, and Roy disappeared like halfway through the movie. He wasn't there anymore, like an hour into the movie. um I thought the movie fell flat. The cinematography ceased to be interesting after a while, and so did the editing of the film. There was two editors working on this, and I kind of felt that at some point. I felt like the frenetic element of it was gone. um and
Yeah,
by
and then in that second half too, it's
yeah,
like scenes just become really short and quick.
yeah,
They're just these weird vignettes,
yeah, and to no
and it just
end.
didn't feel like anything that dramatic was really happening. It didn't
Yeah,
feel like the movie was, like I've said before, putting in work. It didn't feel, even the scene where he and his wife fight,
yeah,
and then he at the end, like the build up to him battering her, it's very quick,
it
it's
is very
short,
quick.
it's not that interesting of an argument or fight with them. Yeah,
And there
yeah,
was like the weird buildup of like the Trump with the hairspray starts
Yeah,
using, and then they, take part of his scalp out,
yeah,
suck the fat out of him.
yeah,
That weird doctor scene where he's like, "Oh, I don't believe in exercise. The human body is like a
yeah,
battery,
yeah,
and once you're out of energy, you're out." Like,
yeah.
just
It's like, speak for yourself, dog. But
yeah,
but
yeah.
go ahead, Edward. I think I jumped in there. Go
Oh
ahead.
no, I was gonna say, like, I was just trying to put all the negatives into like a sentence basically. But yeah, it's like I thought the movie flattened out. It needed Roy, but the fact by the time that Roy came back into the movie, it felt like it was like a too little, too late. The guy was already like dying.
Yeah.
And then the movie's ending just kind of felt like whatever. I was like, whatever, it's like, who cares? Oh, he stole Roy's whole mantra, and now he's writing a book about it. Um, yeah, I don't know. Do you guys have any other positives, negatives before we close this movie out?
I don't know. Yeah, those are my main. I agree with your negatives. And yeah, like again, that abuse scene, yeah, just was way too early, and that was a really key. That was a really key scene that was way too early, and it was hard to undo the damage
Yeah.
of that
Yeah.
story beat not really landing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought this movie could have been a lot more interesting than it was in that
Yes.
back half for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, Edward, I did identify some. I was thinking while we've been talking. I did identify some laws of power that in this movie.
Yeah.
Now Donald, he actually utilizes, because there's that first law of power: never outshine the master.
Yes. Yeah.
But there's a reversal to that law,
There is a
and
reversal to that law.
it's when the master is on the way out, you can sort of know, there's a time to strike and sort of surpass him.
Yeah.
And that's what Donald Trump did.
Yes.
Because he really, on the surface, it seemed like at first he's breaking that law and outshining the master, but by then he had enough power and influence and money to where.
Yeah, and I thought about that.
And even in the beginning, like Roy couldn't touch him at all, really.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But
and
no,
then Roy, I would say the law. Just real quick, I'll throw this in. Like the law that he really violated was there's like one law of power that says never put too much trust in friends.
Yes.
Learn to use enemies.
Yeah.
And in that chapter, they go over how there was. I think it was in the Byzantine Empire. There was that stable boy who ended up
usurping like the emperor, who made him like the head of his like army or something like that.
Yeah, because he slowly just gained more and more influence,
power,
and then when the emperor was like, "Hey, can I get some of that money back?" He was like, "No, fuck you."
Yeah,
and there's a similar dynamic going on here in this movie. But anyway.
You're 100% right. And I thought about that, like when he like kind of like put Roy down. I was like, oh, what's Roy going to do? And then, but then the implication was like, oh, Roy doesn't really have any cards anymore. Like he's too powerful above Roy for Roy to do anything. But yeah. Any closing thoughts, Jack? Anything you want to add?
No, I think you covered the main issues I had with the movie as well. I don't really have anything else.
Jake, any final things?
No, that's it, man.
Well, what would you guys rate The Apprentice? Out of 10.
I'd give it a 5. Average movie.
Yeah. Jack?
Yeah, I'll give it a 7 because it had me interested for most of the movie.
Yeah.
It had me pretty locked in for most of the movie, and yeah, did it fall off a little bit?
Yeah.
Well, definitely fell off, yeah, but the entertainment value I got out of it was probably
it's pretty entertaining. It's one of those movies where, and Jake, you've been there with me before, where I remember when you and I watched The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. I remember that like the beginning, the very first like story on that, I was like, oh dude, this movie's out of 10.
Oh yeah.
I was like, and in my head, I think I said that. I was like, this can only go downhill for here, and I feel really bad. I was like, I'm really scared because the movie started too strong. I had that feeling with this movie, dude. Like with this movie, like the first like 15, 20 minutes, I was like, oh man, this is great. I'm loving it. I was like, I love the look. I love this like 70s, like gritty, like film style, with like the zoom lenses and like with this kind of quick, like very kind of like Taxi Driver feeling, like this very Scorsese like feeling,
Did feel like that, yeah.
I was into it, dude. I was like, this is great. I was having a great time. And then literally an hour into the movie, I was like, what happened? I was
they did really lose the way they were shooting the film.
Yes.
Like I didn't really think about it, but when it was in the beginning of the movie, I was like, this kind of looks like older, like dated, like
it just
different style, like grainy, and like they lost that entirely.
I don't know what happened. I was like looking at the scenes and I was like, these scenes just look so dull and boring. Like what happened? It's like they lost all their like, oomph, like midway through shooting this movie, and they were like, no, let's just finish the movie. Let's just get the movie through, man. So that made me feel terrible. And also the fact that at some point structurally and narratively, writing wise, it became this kind of like, and then issue where like there was nothing tying the scenes together. There was just like, Trump went to ask his dad to sign over the family will. and then he went to see his doctor, and then and it's like it felt like there was like no tissue tying the scenes together.
Yeah.
And I'm
The
making
beats
reference.
became very, and then this happens
Yes.
instead of the whole like South Park creators.
Yes.
They say but therefore.
Exactly.
It just felt like, and
Yeah.
then this happens, and then this happens.
Yes.
It's like,
thank you
all
for
right,
filling
cool
that up.
beans.
Now, thank you,
Yeah.
because I was about to. Thank you. You know exactly what I was talking about. But because of that, I'm with you. To me, this is like a 5 out of 10 movie. It kind of disappointed me like a little bit, big time. Jake,
Yeah.
what do you got for us next week?
Oh shit, you caught me off guard. I gotta think about it. Now it's my turn to think, to
We can come back to it.
ponder. Yeah. I have some ideas though.
Okay.
We'll see.
Okay. Stay tuned,
yeah.
everybody. Before we close this episode out, this is a short one, folks. So we have to give you guys some crumbs sometimes to get you guys like really wanting the full episodes.
Salivating,
Yes.
needing that sustenance of
Yeah.
a 2.5 hour episode.
But this episode is going to be a little short. Sue us. Actually, don't sue us. But I wanted to bring back our Oscars conversation, because the Oscars were a couple of days ago from the shooting of this episode. The episode that came out on Monday had our predictions, and we talked about who would win what. We talked about Timothée Chalamet's very evidently paid for cancellation campaign, who would benefit a specific somebody that I said was going to win the Oscar, and the Jake also said was going to win the Oscar based on what we saw. So I wanted to shout that out. We said in this show that
pretty bang on with our predictions.
Dude, we were bang on. We were bang like we were like, dude. It's funny because they have this like Poly Market and all this like Kalshi like betting stuff where you can bet on like everyday events. After the fact,
we should have bet, dude.
Dude, after the fact, I told my girlfriend, I was like, we should have bet, because like we had everything.
We had everything.
Michael B. Jordan won his first and most definitely not last Oscar for playing like those twin characters, Sinners. And we were spat on. Timothée Chalamet lost it, and it's funny because right after the Oscars ended, and right after Timothy lost, and right after all of this, that whole hate campaign against him gone.
Yeah, of course.
Gone. It achieved its purpose.
I watched the clip. He didn't say anything that bad. You know what he's trying to say.
No, he didn't say anything. He didn't say, like, they just took him out of context, man. And like they took him out of context, and they purposefully negatively interpreted his meaning, and they took him down.
I know. People just, our society they give people no grace anymore.
No.
It's like, dude, have some empathy for this guy. He's doing these interviews
all
day,
the time.
hours,
All the time.
every day, every week. Like, and you just, at a certain point, it's happened to us on the show, dude. Like, it happens where you say something and you're like, oh, you don't know. For lack of a better term, for lack of a better way to say it, you spit something out.
Yeah.
And but you can't, can you really not sit down and think, maybe when he said that, what he really meant was more along the lines of this, instead of the worst possible fucking way
interpretation
of it.
Yeah, it's just all these like bad faith actors out here, man, just like trying to like just. But I mean, God, man, they succeeded, because that like previous to that, he was basically a lock. Like it was him, and then Michael B. Jordan. So it's fascinating how that happened. Paul Thomas Anderson won his first Oscar. Yep. He won for Best Adapted Screenplay, and he won for Best Director. So pretty fascinating stuff, And then One Battle After Another won Best Picture. So now,
seriously.
One Battle After Another won Best Picture, and Paul Thomas Anderson won Best Director and Best Adapted Screenplay, and Ryan Coogler won Best Original Screenplay. And then that lady that we both said was going to win Best Actress, she won Best Actress, even though we hadn't seen the movie she was on. So there you go. That's the Oscars. PTA is no longer on the list of great filmmakers never to win one, so he leaves Kubrick and a handful of other guys alone in there. that's today's show. Any last things you guys want to talk about? Any last minute topics?
I saw a clip that Bill Maher put out on his show about the Oscars, and just talking about how he was kind of putting into perspective, how he was talking about how people get upset about certain movies not winning or certain movies getting snubbed or
Right.
not snubbed, but I think he was just talking about nominees versus wins, and he was really putting into perspective past decades Oscars and how it's always been that way.
Yeah.
Where just great movies will always sometimes lose to another movie. And he brought up an interesting one that Citizen Kane lost to a movie, and he named some movie, and then he goes, whatever the fuck that was. Because it
Right.
was a movie that I've never heard of, and
Legend.
obviously I don't think anyone has. And then he brought up like Shawshank Redemption lost to Forrest
It
Gump,
did, yes.
I think. So I do think in our modern society we're a little more jaded nowadays, and we get down on stuff when really I think things have always been flawed
Mhm.
and always been, particularly when we're talking about media. And I think this is a can of worms, so I'm going to wrap this up quick. But that James Gunn Superman movie, I watched that a few months ago, and I really liked it.
Yeah, that's right. You liked
And
that movie. Yeah.
I thought it was a fantastic Superman movie. It was a
I
great.
watched
It
it
was.
too. I thought
Did
it
you
was.
like it?
Yeah, no, I really liked it because it felt like exactly like it's not trying to be a good like film to be a good film. It's like trying to be a good Superman movie,
Yes.
and I feel like it did accomplish that.
Yeah, it felt exactly. It really captured the spirit of the character. It really captured the spirit of those old Christopher Reeve. Am I getting that right? Christopher Reeves is the guy who played
Yeah.
Superman,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Uh huh.
Um, it really captured the feel of those, and I think it's interesting because you hear a lot. I hear a lot of critics here and there. Like these internet folks taking jabs at that movie and saying it just wasn't respectful to the character, and it just didn't work, and this and that way and the other. And I'm like, sometimes I'm like, look,
Is that a
it's
good
one
movie
thing
or
to not
not?
like the movie, but it's another thing to try to dig so deep with something like this where you're like, guys, what are we talking about here? I
Right.
mean, I rewatched Superman 2 last year, which I loved as a kid. It's the one where
I
he
bet it
fights General
sucks.
Zod.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the one where he fights General Zod and the two other Supermen. Well, one's a woman, but from the other two Kryptonians. And I loved it as a kid. I remember as a kid really watching it and feeling like Superman was up against a real threat. He's up against three Supermen, you know? And I rewatched it last year, and after I was done, I just said, "Wow, that is not nearly as good as I remember when I was 6."
Yeah, it's
It
tough.
really is not that good.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just like, it's not that great of a movie. It's all right.
Yeah.
And so it's like to I think people think there is this bar to act like Superman is this crazy high bar that James Gunn's movie didn't reach.
Mhm.
I think is disingenuous. I mean, have whatever opinion you want, but that's just where I'm coming from with that. And it's kind of the same with the Oscars, where it's almost like people raise the bar arbitrarily, where it's like, why is the bar so high for you when it was never really all that? Like the Oscars were never all that. They always just had movies where you're like, why the hell did that win? And so I think it. But really, what I'm trying to say, I'm really trying to put across a positive message here, which is that things nowadays, whether it's movies or shows or award shows, they're not worse than they used to be.
No.
Overall, I don't think.
No, I don't think so either.
We still get gems. Marty Supreme was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
That was great. So yeah. Chill out, guys. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
And we'll let you know. I'm sure we'll have it in the comments what we're watching next week. So check down below, or down in the description. But thanks, guys. Till
Thank
next
you,
time.
everybody. Just to fill in the gap there, Citizen Kane lost to How Green Was My Valley? By
Yeah.
the John Ford movie, which I'm sure it's
Yeah.
great. It's sitting at like a 4.2 on Letterboxd, so it seems like it's pretty good. Go check that out, everybody. Maybe that'll be next week's episode. Like, subscribe. Thank you. See ya. Bye.
Bye-bye.